Hello friends, welcome back to EduTap Himachal Pradesh Administrative Services channel. In this session, we are going to continue with the previous year questions that we have discussed in the past session with the economy topic. So this is a day 13 of the previous year questions discussion, and in this session we are going to cover the 2017 questions and 2018 questions. So friends, let's proceed ahead now. So the first question that was asked in the quiz morning that you had availed or you have already tried answering in the question is the first question was from the topic industrial development, continuing from the same question that we had left in the last session. That was also industrial development, if you recall, which was the largest industry in India, and the answer was textile industry. So now we are continuing with the same 2017 questions that were asked in the HPAS Prelims, and the first question that we are going to discuss today is Tata Iron and Steel Company at Jamshedpur was established in the year, and the options were 1914, 12, 10, 1908. If you ask me this question, the level of difficulty of this question was, since it is a very factual in nature, you had to know the exact year, and since the options are also very closely narrowed down, so you cannot even make any educated guess in this sort of a question. So it had to be answered through core knowledge, and answer in this particular case was 1908. Now let us discuss quite a bit about Tata Iron and Steel Company. So it was established by the Darobji Tata, the founder of the Tata Iron and Steel Company. It was founded on August 26, 1907. So friends, the option was 1908 if you look at in the previous slide. So the correct option should have been 1907, but the correct answer is 1907, but it was not mentioned in the question options, and the closest option was 1908. But the real fact is that Tata Iron and Steel Company, that is also known as TISCO, was established in the year 1907. So, and it was founded by Jamshedji Tata. You can see the image over here. And apart from that, it was established and carried forward by the Dorabji Tata. And it was located in the Jamshedpur, Jharkhand, a newly formed state in the year 2002, which was carved out of Bihar. And it started the pig iron production in 1911 and began producing steel in the year 1912 as a branch of Jamshedji Tata Group, and amongst the first steel plant in India. So it is not just among the first steel plant in India, but rather Asia itself. So which continuously produces steel at the same site, and for it has been over 100 years that this plant has been existing now. So this was with regard to the first question, and the question was quite difficult. You had to know the exact year so that you could answer. Now let's move on to the next question. Before proceeding ahead, let us look at the contributions made by the Dorabji Tata. That was the image of Jamshedji Tata, and this is the person of the this is the image of Dorabji Tata. You can see he is the man who shaped India's first steel plant, and it is remembered in his honor, TISCO. So now let's move on to the next question. So the second question was, the first industrial policy was announced in the year, and the options given are 1948, 1956, 1964 and 1972. See, here we could make some sort of an analysis. If we had read the economic planning chapter, Indian planning chapter of the economy section, then you would have read about industrial policy. Even though you are not sure about what exactly is, see, India attained independence in the year 1947, and as soon as it attained independence, it was earlier it was a colonial economy, and it was post its independence, it hardly had any industries. British Empire had deindustrialized Indian economy. So India needed the hardcore industries in order for the country to prosper. So Indian government had a clear vision that we have to have a better industries which are capital intensive industries such as iron and steel industry, so that the employment will be generated and the country will keep growing in a consistent manner. So since India attained independence in 1947, so the options had to be quite close to it. So you could eliminate these two options. Between these two options you were now stuck. So what could be the answer? You had to take a guess in regard with regard to these two options. And here you there is no logic that you could apply. There is a possibility that India would have taken 5 years after independence to come up with such a policy, might be in 1956. There could be some sort of delay, but you once you narrow down, you have eliminated two options and you're left with two options. You could go for these two options, but there is no further logic that could be brought down to the answer 1948. The answer is 1948. The idea is I am telling you an approach how to eliminate options. So if you are able to eliminate even two options, you should go for it in the main exam. So that will, the chances of getting it right are 50-50 then. So, but in this case, you had to make a guess, but the correct answer is 1948. Now let us look at a bit about industrial policy of India. See, the quest for industrial development started soon after independence, and the industrial policy of 1948 had defined the broad contours of the policy, delineating the role of Indian industrial development, both as a entrepreneur and the authority. If you look at the Indian model, there are three sorts of model. One is socialist economy, other is the capitalist economy, and other is the mixed economy. So post-independence, India had adopted the planning of mixed economy. So what exactly happens in mixed economy? So it is a combination of both. So what exactly is socialist economy? Socialist economy is an economy where the modes of production or entire resources in the country are controlled by the government itself. This was followed in Russia. And in capitalist economy, the private sectors are given a free hand. The government does not have a dominant role, and the private sector government just acts as an anchor, whereas the private sectors will play a major role and carry on with their activities. But India, with the limited resources, constraint of resources post independence, it adopted a mixed planning approach, where there were certain industries which were reserved for the control by the government. For example, industries. If any private player wanted to set up industries, then there were certain industries where they were not allowed. It was completely reserved for the government itself. So it was a sort of planning that was followed by India to make use of limited resources in a more optimum manner. That was the idea, and the government had followed industrial policy. It came up with, for the growth of a country, it came up with industrial policy in 1948, and its objectives of the industrial policy of the government are, here it is mentioned, that is to maintain a sustained growth in productivity, to enhance the employment of the people, to achieve the optimal utilization of human resources, and to attain the international competitiveness. Because in order for the country to export its product, it has to have a better products and compete with the global products. And apart from that, to transform India into major partner and player in the global arena. So this was the question that was asked with regard to the industrial policy, and since then every 5 years Indian government comes up with a new industrial policy having the features in regard to the context. Or for example, in 1948 the industrial policy was unveiled, and post 5 years we could see some development, and in the next 5 year next industrial policy, the government might target specific sectors for the development. So every 5 years the government rolls out the industrial policy. The first one is in 1948. So now let's move on to the next question. So the question is, the town of Rishira is known for the industry of, options were cotton textile, jute textile, silk textile, and woolen textile. So if you knew the location of town of Rishira, then you could have easily answered this question. But if you did not know where is this town located, then it's quite difficult to answer this question. So the answer in this particular case was jute textile. You know the map of India, and here lies the West Bengal. Post-independence, the jute industry flourished in the West Bengal area, and because jute is a water-intensive or water-guzzling textile. So here since there are many rivers flowing in that region, so the jute industry flourished within that region. Now let us look at a bit. So Rishra is a city and municipality in the Srirampur division of Hooghly district, which is located in West Bengal, and it was the home to first jute mill in India under the British Raj. So these are the two important takeaways from this question. Apart from that, these are the rest of the other industries that are set up. You can go through them. And jute industry gradually declined in India after the independence of India. So now let's move on to the next question. So what was the index of industrial production? Again, the question is from the topic industrial development. So this highlights the gravity or the significance of the importance of this chapter. You have to read this chapter quite thoroughly because they are asking continuously 4-5 questions from this particular topic. So this implies that this topic is particularly important. And now the next question is, what was the index of industrial production? This is the key word here. In December 2017, and the question again was asked in the year 2017. So the options given were 8.8%, 7.1, 6.8, 2.4. So this is kind of factual question. 2.4%. You had to know the exact data and only then you could answer it, or else there is no way in narrowing down the option or making any sort of educated guess here. And in this particular question, the answer was option C. Now before proceeding ahead, the kind of idea that the main theme that we are taking away from this question is there are many more indexes like IIP, Index of Industrial Production, WPI, CPI. See, these are the indicators which determine the kind of activities that are being performed, or these are known as high frequency indicators which show the performance of an economy. So you have to know these indexes. The questions can be asked by these indexes are released by which of the institutions, the base year of these indexes. I mean, since this question is already asked, there is a possibility that this sort of question might be asked in future examination with respect to these indicators. And apart from that, what are the other dimension where the examiner can test you is the institution which releases this index can be asked, and apart from that, what is the base year of the index of industrial production, and apart from that, what are the components of these indexes, what are the components of these indices. So these are the sort of question, and apart from that, what is the frequency, or once in how many days is this index released. For example, IIP is released monthly, and similarly is the CPI. So even this can be asked, and the options can be given in the form of monthly, weekly, yearly, quarterly. So you have to look at these dimensions and answer this question. So now let us look at IIP a bit in detail. See, the IIP, its base year was revised in May 2017. May 2017. Earlier its base year was 2004-05. Every once in a few years the base year is revised, so that we'll get a better picture of the economic activity. So before proceeding ahead, we must know what exactly is IIP. IIP is the thermometer of an economy. So for example, since the base year is 2011-12, the base value is set out of 100, and suppose in the year 2021 the base the value of index, that is IIP, is 150. It implies that the industrial activities have increased by 50 by absolute number of 50 and 50% in comparison to the base year. So this shows the economic activities that have been increased in this time period, that is since the base year, and this is released by National Statistics Office monthly. That is once the month of suppose January is over, it is released after a lag of 6 weeks, because once the month of January is completed, there requires a minimum time to compute all the data, collect all the data, and come out with this index. So these are the major components of the index, that is manufacturing, mining, electricity, and the weightages are 77%, 14% and 7% respectively. And apart from that, See, you can see that IAP is classified in 3 types, and that is manufacturing, mining, electricity, and within manufacturing we have industry and the use-based goods, and the use-based goods are further classified into basic goods, capital goods, intermediate goods, and consumer goods, and consumer goods are further classified into durable goods and non-durable goods. If you want to take a look at the example of durable goods, are the ones which last for a longer period of time, such as the fridges, etc. And non-durables are which last for less than an year, or maybe which are perishable in nature, such as the products consumed like milk, eggs, etc. So this IAP gives a complete picture of the economic activities that have been flourishing within the economy, and this is measured, this is taken as the thermometer of an economy. So this index gives us the exact picture of the economy, that is the performance of an economy. Now let's move on to the next question. So the first this is from the topic Indian planning. So again, signifying that the importance of this topic, which one of the following is not a part of the strategy of direct attack on poverty, and this was asked in the year 2018, and the options given were integrated rural development program, family planning program, national rural employment program, and Jawahar Rozgar Yojana. So before proceeding ahead, I would like to tell you a few things. This was unveiled in the year 1978. This was unveiled in the year 1980 roughly, and this was unveiled in the year 1989. So Jawahar Rozgar Yojana was formed through the merger of National Rural Employment Program and other program, that is Rural Guarantee Employment. This is another program. So it was formed out of the by the merging of these two schemes, and this was unveiled in the year 1989. And family planning program was started. That is, Indian government had come up with National Family Planning Program. It was the first country in the world to have a proper family planning program in the year 1951 itself, but that was not successful, and the recent family planning program or national population policy was unveiled in the year 2000, and this was during late 1980s that the National Family Planning Program was unveiled. So the question that is being asked here is not a part of the strategy on direct attack on poverty. So in this program, the employment was provided to the rural people. So the livelihood was that the income of the people residing within the rural places was increased. So once the income was increased, that reduces their, or that alleviates their poverty. And similarly, National Rural Employment Program directly addressing the employment, and we already discussed that Jawahar Rozgar Yojana is nothing but a combination of this program and this program. So all the three programs are aimed at employment, but this program is not aimed at employment. Hence, this is not a part of the strategy of direct attack on poverty. So in this particular question, the answer was option B. Now let's move on to the next question. Again, this is from the topic Indian planning. So the question was, over the years, the government has been following approaches to reduce poverty in India, and which are the programs? That is specific poverty alleviation program, growth oriented development, meet the minimum needs of the poor. So the question in this, the examiner is trying to ask you, government has been following which of the following approaches to reduce the poverty in India? The first one is specifically addressing the poverty alleviation program, and apart from that, the growth oriented development, and the other one is meeting the minimum needs of the poor. So what is the minimum needs? As it is said, roti kapda makan, that is the shelter, food and clothing. So these are the minimum needs of a poor. So, and the options were given as 1 and 3 only, 1 and 2 only, 2 and 3, 1, 2, 3. So if you look at these questions, and after having thoroughly studied all the subject, that is the economy, the different 5-year plans program, that if you have studied in the Indian economy, then you would be able to answer this question easily. So answer in this particular question was C, because that is D. All the programs were part of the approaches, these were all the approaches to reduce poverty in India, and this is kind of easy question if you had read all the Indian planning properly. So now let's move on to the next question. So what this is asked from the poverty. If you now recall our previous session, it is clearly evident that the poverty chapter is very important and you have to be thorough with this particular chapter. So now the question that was asked in the year 2018 was, what does the poverty gap reflect? And the options were gap in infrastructure facility between the developed nation and the developing nation, the difference between the poverty line and the actual below poverty line, actual people below that line, and gap between the developed nation and the developing nation, and the gap between the rich people and the poor people. So if you knew about this poverty line, and this is a kind of static topic, this is a static topic. If you had already covered the poverty chapter in detail, you would have been easily able to answer this question. But still, let us look at the answer. The answer in this particular case is option B. So what does the topic talk about? See, BPL, that is the below poverty line. This is the poverty line. The poverty line is measured, released by the Indian government, and this is an absolute measure. There are two ways of measuring the poverty. One is the absolute poverty, other one is the relative poverty. Just like I gave you the example of the World Bank, where it says that anyone who earns less than $1.90 per day is considered as poor. So that is an absolute way. If we have an absolute indicator, then anyone who falls or below that is considered as a poor person. But that gives us that ratio, or that number gives us the number of people who are poor. But this ratio, that is poverty gap, looks at the people, looks at the intensity of the poverty. Just to get give you an example, this is a below poverty line, maybe consider 1,000 rupees. Then there is one person who is earning 980. There is another person who is earning 960, and there might be another person who might be earning 800 itself. So the difference between the poverty line and the actual income shows the intensity of the poverty that the person is going through. So here in this particular case, this person is more deprived of all the resources, or he is considered as poor in greater intensity than this person. And if you compare this person with this person, he is poorer than this person. So this poverty gap indicates or reflects the intensity or the depth in poverty. So the answer is difference between the poverty line and actual poverty below that line. So this is the option B. And the next question is again from poverty. So this can't be more clear than that. The poverty and the development chapter is very important for the examination. So which of the following is not an indicator? Focus on the keywords. Is not an indicator of economically underdeveloped countries. So the options were low per capita income, high rate of population growth, low proportion of labor force in the primary sector. Always focus on the keywords while reading the options, and high level of illiteracy. So we have already discussed that the developed countries tend to have a less poverty. It also has few other indicators. The country is also performing better on other indicators, such as it has high per capita income, high literacy ratio. And see, if you look at the macroeconomic theory, the classical economic theory says that the country moves from agricultural sector to manufacturing sector to services sector. This is the classical growth. That is people, primary sector, secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. The people, if the country is in underdeveloping stage, most of the people will be within the agriculture sector. As the country makes a progress from underdeveloping to developing to developed, the people who are employed in agriculture will gradually or naturally shift to manufacturing and ultimately shift to services. The macroeconomic classical theory says that this is how the phenomenon of growth of a country takes place, but India has made a switch directly from agriculture sector to services sector. What does it mean? That the contribution to our GDP, initially when we are growing, the agriculture or the primary sector will be contributing in large number, and after that the manufacturing sector will be contributing, after that the services sector. But in India currently the services sector contribute roughly 55% of the GDP, and second is mostly manufacturing, and after that agriculture. So we have never seen a phase where the GDP chunk, major part of the GDP is contributed by manufacturing. Hence we have skipped this stage of manufacturing sector, and we have made a direct transition towards services sector. The idea behind telling this was, so as the country makes a progression to developed country, it has a high level of literacy, high rate of the population growth rate is low because it is kind of stabilized, and high per capita income, and the low proportion of labor force in the primary sector is an indicator of the developed country. As I've told you, the more number of people are employed in the services sector. So this is not an indicator of the underdeveloped country, rather this is an indicator of the developed country. So option C is the answer. Now let us look at the next question. This question was from one of the national institutions. So which is or are the objectives of the Competition Commission of India? This is again one of the important commission, or maybe this was in news during that time when the exam was conducted in 2018. And the options given are: to ensure freedom of trade carried on by other participants in the markets in India, to protect the interests of the consumer, to promote and sustain competition in markets, to prevent practices having an adverse effect on competition. And the options given were 1, 2 and 4, 1, 2 and 3. So you can get it. So the idea here is Competition Commission of India. So you should know what exactly is this commission and when was it constituted. The idea behind discussing this question is, since this question is already repeated, there are many other institutions like Niti Aayog, and NSO. This is a statistical body. So there are multiple organizations that are working within the premises of an economy. So you should know the important organization and their functions, which can be probably asked in the future upcoming examination. So this question was asked on the CCI, and similarly the questions can be asked on other organization. So when you are attending next examination, the next upcoming prelims, the idea is whatever organization that is currently trending in news, you should go through its function and when was it constituted. That will give you a fair idea of the organization. So, and answer in this particular case was option D. We'll be discussing about it. So what exactly is CCI? CCI is a statutory body of Government of India. It is responsible for enforcing the Competition Act 2002, and it was duly constituted in March 2009. So what was the practice, or what was the need for this commission in the first place? So earlier, India post 1991 made a shift from license quota Raj to, with the LPG reforms, it had liberalized the economy. Earlier, if the government, if any private player wants to set up an industry, it had to obtain the license from the government, and because of which there was a lot of delay in its getting its due permission, and that was leading to the hindrance of the growth in an economy. So it was known as license quota Raj, and it was dissolved with the introduction of LPG reforms in the year 1991. So earlier what used to happen was, there was one industry which used to have a kind of monopoly practices within the economy. So in order to curb the monopolistic tendencies and have a fair competition in the economy, the Competition Commission of India was set up by the Indian government. And what usually happens, if there is only one player which is offering the services, and it can set any prices, also known as predatory pricing, to capture the market and to drive out its competitors. So in order to avoid such practices happening within the economy, the Competition Commission of India was set up, and its objectives were eliminate practices which are adverse to competition, ensure freedom of trade in the market, promote and sustain competition, protect the interests of the consumer. This is the important measure, and give opinion on competition issues, undertake capacity building and competition advocacy. So this was with regard to that question. And now let us look at the next question, which was asked from the Unemployment, Poverty and Inequality chapter. Which year is known as the year of demographic divide? So if you knew this was a direct and straightforward question. You could have easily answered this question. The answer was option C in this particular case. And how is it? Just we'll take a look at in the Next slide. So if you look at the growth of the population of India, then it was in the year 1921, that is from 1911 to 1921, the India had seen a negative growth rate. So hence this is known as the demographic divide year. After that, it has consistently seen a positive growth rate. And if you look at the Indian growth phase, it is divided into these many stages. That is 1901 to 1921 period of stagnant or stationary growth, 1921 to 21 period of steady population growth. Here it was not growing at all, and here we saw steady population growth. Here there is an explosion of population growth and period of high growth with definite signs of slowing down. So that is classification. That was with regard to that question. Now let us look at the last question, again from the topic unemployment, poverty and inequality. So the total fertility rate, again this is a direct definition based question, and if you knew this, it is an easy question. I would rather classify it, and answer in this particular case was the number of children a woman will likely bear in her lifetime. So after having analyzed this question, we get an idea that what are the nature of the questions that have been asked in the previous examination, and what are the it will also give us an idea that how do we prepare. Previous year questions are the best source for our preparation. Looking at this question, now you can start your preparation and mold regardingly that what are the question or what are the areas that one should focus on. So friends, that's all we have in this session. For more such interesting videos, please subscribe our channel, and thanks.